basically, especially from a betting standpoint, Poole to the Wizards, Paul to the Warriors for right now. Like that's really all we have to worry about for like picks and money and whatever.
Don't worry about the picks, right?
What's the first thing that pops in your head if I'm like, oh man, like Chris Paul's gonna be on the Warriors next year for Jordan Poole? What's like the first thing?
My immediate reaction was, wow, the Warriors are doing this. Not from the aspect of getting rid of Jordan Poole, which we'll talk about stinking and his contract and everything, but from the standpoint of there was a belief that Bob Myers was actually stepping away because he had grown so tight with this team. He was still a young GM that he had known that this core had run its course. And frankly, it was going to be awfully difficult for him at this point to really take part in like the dismantling of that. And we are a couple days removed from Draymond Green declaring for free agency. And that doesn't mean that he's gone from the Warriors. Obviously, whatever could be worked out. And I think that in the back of my mind, I kind of thought, Mike Dunleavy Jr. saying the Warriors are still very interested in bringing him back. But is that, appeasing a fan base that loves him? Is that appeasing Draymond? And in the end, they're going to be awfully happy if he takes a deal and goes somewhere else. And I kind of thought after what had happened in that Kings series early and then what happened in round 2 with the Warriors versus the Lakers, that this offseason was going to be more about Steph Curry probably sticks around as a lifer. Maybe he gets traded somewhere else at the end of his career. But the Warriors kind of are acknowledging that they were at the end of the road and they were done competing. This move, to me, tells me the exact opposite. That Mike Dunleavy Jr. is not taking this job as a charity case and that he's looking to have his fingerprints in, and the Warriors are all back in for one last ride here, and they think Chris Paul could be, a different finishing piece.
To a certain extent, part of this is you're able to just get rid of Jordan Poole, who makes a ton of money. 4 years, $140 million, which might have seemed like an okay idea. And the last time we heard from Jordan Poole, anybody who watched this year and the postseason,
he was
before
terrible.
The season, Draymond's punching him in the face. The team is all giving him like stink eye the entire regular season. The postseason was... and this is not like I'm hearing this, like based on all public reporting from reporters who cover the team, a ton of tension between Poole and a lot of other players on the team. Like Poole, because I think Poole thought he should be playing
probably
a lot.
Not
was
a good dude.
A big deal. And these guys are still in a title window. And look, it's NBA players. There's huge egos. Like everybody wants to play a lot. Everybody wants to score a lot. Everybody wants to win. But like that, you're going to have conflict sometimes. And who do you think is going to win that conflict? So like, part of this, I think it's like, okay, I think it's so easy to be like Chris Paul in, and I'm kind of like, well, Jordan Poole out. For me, like that's awesome for the Warriors. Great. Yeah. Like you have this 4-year, $140 million contract for a guy who was almost unplayable in the playoffs. You're going to pay a guy 4-year, $140. He's at least got to be playable in the playoffs on this team because the goal is to win the title. So like if you're paying a guy that much money, he can't be like a liability in a playoffs. Like he's got to be a guy who's going to, in your closing 5, at least in a playoff series, they thought he was going to be that. And they figured out, I think, that he's not that. And so just being able to get off that and onto anything else, especially if it's a player who could be in your closing 5 potentially in a playoff game, or could be an impactful player in a playoff series, is really good. Now, Chris Paul's a huge name. He's so much more than just like the guy coming in. But really the Poole out part of this is kind of interesting for me because, I mean, for the money he made and the goal of the team, he makes no sense. Now they need players, but like he just for the amount of money he makes, he was not helpful, and maybe he can go be helpful somewhere else. So great. So like that's a huge deal for me for the Warriors. And then Chris Paul coming in, I think we all have a bunch of questions, right? And we're not going to know the answers to any of these. I don't know what the money is like. Is he taking way less to join the team? Which is possible.
Right, who knows?
Because if he is, then the next immediate question after that is, does that mean Draymond Green is going to come back? Does this impact his ability to come back to the Warriors? Obviously, Green opted out to become a free agent. And okay, how do all these pieces fit together? Forget even the basketball part at first. Just like, what does this mean for how the Warriors roster is going to get filled out? Because if you tell me like, hey, you go into next year and Chris Paul and Draymond are on the team together, and then obviously you still have like the core, you have the Curry Clay core like still there.
Right.
Okay. Then there's a lot of really interesting basketball questions if they're all on the team. Okay, Draymond's like a point forward. He's the initiator. Okay, when is Chris Paul playing? What is his role on the... Chris Paul likes to play pick and roll basketball. Draymond's an initiator with a lot of guys moving. how do you merge these? And Chris Paul's a smart player, and Draymond's a smart player. It's not like these things can't work. Just it immediately, I'm like, man, I'm really interested in this because it doesn't seem like the pieces fit together. And this is a really smart team with a smart coach. Denver and Phoenix, and that's it, would be my guess, because that's kind of where it was before. And then the Lakers are probably close to them. Yeah, Alex says that's right. So Denver. So the order in the market is Denver, Phoenix, Golden State, Lakers.
So
do you agree now that that's the order?
Yeah, I do, but this is where I find like this interesting because, I mean, maybe I had this completely wrong, Ken. Mentally, I was prepared to kind of say goodbye to the Warriors in terms of me looking to like ever bet them to win another NBA championship. You can still say goodbye.
You want to say goodbye to them?
I don't now. I'm intrigued by this Chris Paul.
With Chris Paul,
and I don't even think Chris
Paul. Really?
No, because I there's part of me that thinks, and maybe this is karmically, and I'm not even like a big Chris Paul fan. Like I'm kind of whatever on Chris Paul. But the idea that the Suns are trying to make this work with Durant, they push Chris Paul out, they get Bradley Beal in. Chris Paul now ends up on the team that Durant needed to go to win titles, left, and now is, one of his biggest nemesis in the West. There's something karmically there where I feel like the Warriors and Chris Paul are going to stand in Kevin Durant's way of a title. And does that translate into getting past the Nuggets? I don't know, because it feels like, well, I mean, if I say I like the Warriors to go back to an NBA Finals, it's almost like so disrespectful to what the Nuggets just did, finally climbing the mountain. But I kind of think the Warriors got a punch or shot to still be very much in the mix next year.
It's they're one of the interesting teams for me, definitely. I don't know if the Chris Paul trade is like, well, I didn't like them and now I really like them. It's more just kind of like I have them as a team that before they made this trade, a team that was interesting from a title perspective. They have it's going to come down to a certain extent, like what are you getting from Curry as he continues to like kind of enter the late part of the prime of his career, right? Like what did I see the other day? I was writing today. Yeah, like I just hear there are certain things that make you feel so old. It's like Curry, Curry's going into year 15 this year.
How is that possible?
How is it possible? Durant's going into year 17.
Again, how is that possible? Didn't we just
LeBron,
go through the weight
21.
room take where he was too thin? Yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
LeBron almost makes more sense because he's been around forever. But the other two, it's kind of like, man, like Curry, like that's year 15. That's like really crazy. I kind of can't believe that's a thing.
I was a freshman in high school when Tom Brady entered his first game after the Mo Lewis hit. People still want him to come back out of retirement. I'm good. I'm very much good. I have 2 kids in a house. I was a freshman in high school. I'm done with the Brady era. We're getting near that point. I'm still not ready for guys like Curry or whatever, but LeBron I'm kind of good on now too. I've seen the LeBron career. I'm good.
You're good? Jake, he's good.
Yeah, I'm good.
What do we say to that? Yeah. When he's good, what do we say about that?
Okay. Joining us, if I have this right, is he here? Yes, Pat is good. Pat Garrity, who is an NBA front office analyst for Stadium, a former first-round pick. He went 19 overall, played a long time in the NBA, predominantly with the Orlando Magic, was once a three-point contest member as well, has seen it from all ends, and will be with Shams on Stadium a little bit later on for some NBA draft coverage.
It seems like the only thing we know for sure, like with any certainty whatsoever, is that Victor Wembanyama is going to be the first pick of the San Antonio Spurs. There are already markets open. Like, how many games do you think the Spurs are going to win next year? Wembanyama is already a huge favorite to win Rookie of the Year. I remember Chet Holmgren's eligible to win Rookie of the Year also. Just kind of like, what do you think in his first year? What are realistic expectations for this guy? Like, do you agree that he should be a really big favorite already to be Rookie of the Year?
Well, yeah, I think he's going to be Rookie of the Year because I think he's going to put up some insane defensive numbers just in terms of blocks and in terms of his ability to protect the rim. I just can't see him not being immediately impactful on the defensive end. I think it's going to probably take a little time offensively. Like, I'm sure San Antonio is going to have him shoot threes. I doubt that his percentages are going to be great, but anything around the rim, like, he's just so big and long, you would expect that he's going to be able to finish and post pretty efficient offensive stats with how they're going to play him. The thing that I'm really interested to see how it plays out is that does he have the potential and the ability to be an all defensive team selection as a rookie? And there's only been 4 guys in the history of the NBA who have done that. Ironically, David Robinson and Tim Duncan are 2 of the 4. So I think that that's a realistic possibility. If he does that, that's obviously a historic accomplishment.